Okay, so our topic is regarding introduction to biochemistry and the cell, no? And our learning outcomes for these topics are the following. So number one, our learning outcomes is to be for you at the end of this lesson, you students must be able to define what is biochemistry and understand basic principles in biochemistry. Second, Second is to be able to discuss the structure and functions of the cell. It is very important for us to study the structure of the cell first before discussing the biochemical processes, because it is the cell who usually conducts the process. It is the cell who conducts the process, because as we all know, no, as based on your human anatomy in the first semester, what is cell? Cell is the basic unit of life, di ba? Yun yung kaniyang definition. And knowing the functions of the cell and its structure, then we will be able to know how are these biochemical components, no, acts on it. And some of, or shall we say, some of the composition of the structure of these cells are composed of biochemical components like lipids, diba? Especially in the cell membrane, you have lipids, carbohydrates, and among others. And how are these biochemicals passed through from one cell to another? So here we will know how are these biochemical components act on the cell. And third, we have this objective, which is to be able to differentiate a prokaryotic and a eukaryotic cell. I guess you already know the difference between the two. You have that one as well in your human anatomy, no? In your human anatomy. And I think, do you have your microbiology? I think last semester you have your microbiology then, no? Last semester. So therefore,
Ngayon po, sir.
ano yun?
Ngayon lang
Other,
po, sir.
since you're able to have human anatomy in the first sem, and then you have microbio this sem, then therefore, how much more, no? You should know the difference between a prokaryotic and a eukaryotic cell, right? Because your bacteria belongs to what type of cell? Your bacteria, is it a prokaryotic or a eukaryotic cell? Organism. Your microorganism, your bacteria, your fungi, no? Your bacteria, your archaea, and among others. So anong type ng cell sila? So with that, I hope alam ko na alam niyo na kung paano i-differentiate. And what we will do is to review on it. Okay? So those are our learning outcomes or objectives for this topic. Okay. So allow me to use the slide of my co-professor, no? Who is the instructor of the preview of the other section. Okay. So the first part in your paper, you're tasked to view the video discussion of what is biochemistry all about. And I will not play on this one. Now you can review on this one as you get into your materials sa paper. You can review on this one. Okay. So let's proceed to the definition of what is biochemistry. Okay. So may I request somebody from the class to read the definition? Okay. Sige. May I ask Miss Catherine Limbadan, are you around?
Yes, sir.
Okay, can you read the slide, please? The three paragraph.
So biochemistry is the science concerned with the studying the various molecules that occur in the living cells and organisms and with their chemical reactions. Life depends on biochemical reactions. Biochemistry has become the basic language of all biological sciences. Biochemistry is concerned with the entire spectrum of life forms from relatively simple viruses and bacteria to complex human beings. Sir, nakamute ka po.
Okay, so that is the definition of biochemistry. Okay, so to to cut it short, to cut it short, or to give a summarization of that, of the definition of what is biochemistry. So based on the definition, okay, when we talk about biochemistry, okay, when we talk about biochemistry, okay, again, it simply talks about the study of composition, no? Or shall we say, or shall we say, the study of the chemical composition of course, from the word itself, bio, no, from the word itself, bio, then therefore it pertains to living matter, no, to living matter, and the changes that occurs on it, no, and the changes that occurs on it. Do you get me? Do you follow, guys? So that is the first or the primary definition of what is biochemistry. Secondly, it is a science, no? It is a science concerned concerned with the chemical basis of life. Okay? Basis of life. Because as the cell, as the unit of life, the components of the cell are biochemical, okay, are biochemical components or compositions of the cell. That's why, again, it is concerning the chemical basis of life. Why do things exist? Because some of its components are biochemical components. Okay? So therefore, it is the science concerned. Okay? Saan siya concerned? Okay? Science concerned with the chemical constituents, okay, or components, no? Shall we say chemical constituents or component of the living cells. So that is the definition of a we're in. Okay, that is the definition of biochemistry. We're in these chemical constituents, or shall we say components, undergoes certain processes, or shall we say undergoes reactions. And that is what we call biochemical reactions of those biochemical components in the cell. No? It undergoes reaction and processes, such as example of that are metabolic processes of those chemical constituents, the carbohydrates, the proteins, um, lipids, no? Nucleic acids. Those are examples of those biochemical constituents or chemical constituents. So lastly, therefore, when we talk about biochemistry, then it talks about biomolecules, no? Or shall we say, this is known as your micromolecules. So because we cannot see it in our naked eye, no? Micro. Do you follow, guys?
Yes po, sir.
Okay, so let's continue. Okay, let's continue with the next slide under it. Okay. So next is Biochemistry is the study of chemical substance found in living organisms and the chemical interactions of these substances with each other. A biochemical substance, okay, dito tayo, a biochemical substance could be classified into two, no? It could be your inorganic and your organic substance, or shall we say your inorganic biomolecules and your organic biomolecules, no? Dalawa. They are just the same, no? Bio inorganic and your bioorganic substances. Okay, so I think, do you have your chemistry? Anong chemistry meron kayo, by the way? Anong chemistry lecture meron kayo? Do you have inorganic or you have general chemistry?
Wala pa po, sir. Ano lang po,
Your
biochem lang po.
first your first chem is biochem. Pero in your senior high, especially for those in the STEM na
Bio,
strand,
sir.
in gen, sa gen sa senior high ninyo, you have
Bio.
gen bio, not gen chem.
General Chem.
Tapos,
Gen
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 sir.
Chem, di ba? Gen Chem. So the discussion under there is both inorganic and organic discussions na. Mix na siya, no? Hindi siya more focused lang sa inorganic na mga molecules or elements, no? Then unlike for example sa amin sa practice namin sa pharma, we have separated the subject on inorganic kasi and organic. In Gen Chem, it is very broad yung topic, no? Very broad yung topic. So those are the two types, no, or classification of biochemical substances. So of course, just to give you a glimpse of what is the difference between the two, especially for the organic substances. So when we talk about bioorganic substances, it pertains to those molecules or substances that comprises or containing carbon. Okay, those substances containing carbon, okay, not only carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and other elements like sulfur, no, phosphorus are under bioorganic substances or organic substances, and primarily the molecule present which differentiate a bioorganic differentiate an organic from an inorganic is carbon, the presence of carbon. Okay, so talking about bio-inorganic, these substances do not have carbon, no? Which differs it from organic, such as water, metals, inorganic salts, no? And even discussing about the different elements that we have. So those are example of inorganic. And then we have your organic. When we talk about organic, then therefore it talks about your biomolecules, no? We have your carbohydrate, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids. And each of these, okay, each of these are building blocks of a particular molecule. So with that, we will be discussing it later. Before moving to the levels of biological organization, since we're talking about organic, bioorganic, especially carbohydrate, lipids, protein, and nucleic acid, which is necessary for necessary components of the cell, as well, even as well the inorganic part, water and salt are important as well in order for the cell to survive. No? The transport of this bio-inorganic substance and chemicals are also necessary in order for the sustainability of the life of the cell, of us people, no? As living creatures, no? So very important. Lalong-lalo na itong organic natin na mga substances. Okay. So before moving, so since biochemistry, okay, since biochemistry talks about your biomolecules, no? Yung nasa bioorganic natin na examples, no? Biomolecules. Okay. First, we have ang pinaka-common among all, we have your carbohydrates, di ba? We have your carbohydrates. And your carbohydrate is the building blocks of what? May I ask the class? Your carbohydrate is the building blocks of what? Or what is the, shall we say, what is the, ano yan? Yes?
Sugar. Sugar.
Sugar. Okay, carbohydrate is the building block of sugar, particularly the common sugar that we have, the basic sugar. Of course, we have your
Monosaccharides.
glucose, yes, and that is an example of a monosaccharide because that is the basic form of sugar, no, your monosaccharide. Though under carbohydrates, we have also yung three carbon atoms lang na carbohydrates and so on, pero ang pinaka-basic form niya is the monosaccharide. Okay? And then we have as well your, aside from carbohydrate, we have your proteins. What is the building block of proteins? Yun yung question ko. What is the building block of proteins? What is the building block of proteins? Proteins are composed of what? Proteins are composed of,
Amino
Amino
acids.
acids.
okay, amino acid, particularly alpha. Okay, alpha amino acids. Very good. Okay. Of course, we have your lipids. How about your lipids? What is the building blocks of lipids?
Fatty acids
Okay,
and
very
glycerol.
okay. Fatty acids and glycerol. But mainly fatty acids. Kasi kung fatty acid plus glycerol, that is more of a triglyceride, no? Triglyceride. So building blocks niya is fatty acids. Yes, that is correct. And then lastly, we have nucleic acid. Nucleic acid building blocks niya. Nucleic acid are the building blocks of
Nucleotide.
nucleotides, or shall we say we can have it as your DNA, and we have as well your RNA, no? Your deoxyribonucleic acid and your ribonucleic acids. Okay, so that is the building blocks, no? The basic biomolecules and the building blocks. And of course, lastly, we do not forget its major function. No? Ano yung major functions niya? Of course, for carbohydrate, no? For of course, it is a
Energy,
source
sir.
of very good source of energy. We convert this sugar or glucose into ATP, no? And we have short term, of course, for short-term energy source, of course, uh, or shall, yes, that is for short-term energy source, no? For which is your carbohydrate. At the same time, what do you call the stored glucose in the body, particularly in the muscles? In the form of what? Gani, guys? Ang glucose is stored in muscles, in fats. What do you call that form of glucose stored in the body? Your ATP is energy. ATP is energy naman. I mean, stored glucose. Stored glucose in the body, particularly sa fats, sa muscles, in the form of, yeah,
Glycogen.
okay, very
Glycogen.
good.
Glycogen.
Okay, in the form of glycogen. Diba? Ano, next, proteins. Your proteins naman are components of that, no? Or molecules of that of the cell wherein it carries out the work, no? It carries out work, yung ating protein. In this for example of this one, of course, no? Example of this one is your enzymes present, no, in the cell, in the body, which carries out a reaction, which somehow hastens or pinapapabilis niya yung certain biochemical reactions in the body to the help of enzymes. No? And enzymes are protein. Okay, take note down, no? Just a note regarding this. Enzymes are protein. Okay? Enzymes are proteins. But not all proteins are enzymes. Do you get me? Again, enzymes are proteins, but not all proteins are enzymes. And that is a fact kasi meron tayong classification of proteins. So when we discuss about proteins, we'll be discussing those types of proteins. And one of that is an enzyme. Okay? So that is a fact under proteins, no? That enzymes are proteins, but not all proteins are enzymes. Okay. Lipids naman. Our lipids have numerous functions, especially in the cell. Okay, numerous function, especially in the cell. It is a very important component of the membrane, as we all know. No? Our semi-permeable membrane. At kung bakit naging tinatawag natin siyang semi-permeable membrane? Because due to its component. And one of its component is a lipophilic. The lipophilic component. No? The lipophilic tail and the hydrophobic the lipophilic tail and the hydrophilic head, no? Yun yung component ng ating cell membrane. So with that, it is a component of the very important component of the membrane kaya nagiging selective, no? Yung membrane natin sa mga substance na nagpapass through sa loob. And which is more in favor, again, our cell is more in favor with lipophilic substances, no? Kasi nga major component ng cell membrane is also lipophilic. Kaya lipophilic or lipid-loving na mga substances yung pwedeng or maaring makapass through ng mas mabilis inside the cell, going to the cell, in and outside. Okay? So it's a component of the cell membrane, okay? And at the same time, if carbohydrate is used as a short-term storage, no, short-term storage for and as a source of energy, ito namang ating lipids is a long-term storage for energy, no? Ibig sabihin yan, okay, in the form of fats na in the body or the adipose that we have in the body is a source of energy which is for long-term use. Okay, for long-term use. So those are the one of the basic or major function of that of lipids. And then lastly, of course, we have your nucleic acid. As we all know, again, building blocks of that of your DNA and your RNA, which makes up the what we so-called as genetic material, no? which makes up the genetic material, no? And at the same time, it is a template for protein synthesis. Diba? We have the mRNA, no? The messenger RNA, no? Template siya to produce proteins, no? To produce proteins. Or shall we say to produce amino acid, sequence of amino acids, and then proteins. So with that, that is the purpose of nucleic acids. Okay? Do you get me? Do you follow, guys? Regarding
Yes, sir.
biomolecules? Okay, so now let's proceed to the continuation of the slide. Now regarding levels of biological organization, no? Levels of biological organization. So, as we all know, no, the level of biological organization starts from the cell, no, the cell as the first stage of life, and then followed by atoms, molecules, no. We have macromolecules, organelles, the cell, the tissues, organ systems, then followed by the organism as a whole. So with that, that is the basic unit, anong tawag natin dito? Organization ba kung saan nagmula lahat. No? So I hope everyone already know this one, no? Even in your human anatomy. Human anatomy. So subatomic particles, of course, we have your electrons, protons, and neutrons. I will not discuss the definition of the following, no? But then again, please try to review of what is an electron, what is a proton, and neutron. And then we have your atoms, no? Your hydrogen, oxygen, lithium, and among other atoms of the element of the table of elements. And then molecules, we have your water, glucose, oxygen molecule, your O2, and your carbon dioxide molecule. Yan. And then we have your macromolecules. So when we talk about macromolecules, we have your protein molecules, DNA molecules, and among others. And then we have your organelles. So later on, we will be discussing the cell structure, and its organelles, or those basic parts of the cell. No? Then followed by tissues. Of course, the four types of tissues. We have your epithelial, connective, muscle, and nervous tissues. And in each of these, meron tayong mga different, di ba, na classification of this. Like for epithelial, di ba, we have your squamous, your stratified, ano pa ba? Epithelial, squamous, stratified, pseudostratified, and among others. I hope you can still remember that one in your human anatomy. Yeah, you have that one in your human anatomy. And then connective tissues, no? The bone. Yes, am I right? The bone. Bone tissue is a connective tissue. Yes, that is an example. Muscle tissues. We have the smooth muscle, cardiac muscle. Ano pa ba? Di ba tatlo? Di ba tatlo? We have smooth, cardiac, tsaka ano yung isa, guys? Meron, di ba tatlo yan? Smooth, cardiac, and what is the other type of muscle? Please recall on that one. And then we have the nervous, of course, nervous tissues. Skeletal muscle. Skeletals muscle. Yeah, skeletal muscle. Yeah. Good. And then we have your organs, of course, the different organs that we have. No? Organ system, group of organs are organ systems. Diba yun yun siya? Cell, group of cells are tissues, group of tissues are comprises organs, group of organs comprises the organ system, and then we have the organism as a whole. So I hope you review on this one. Okay. Okay. So now let's proceed to our discussion regarding the cell. Okay. Let's talk about the cell. So again, the simplest definition of a cell is that your cell is the basic unit of life. Okay. These are basic building blocks of living things. the human body is composed of trillions of cells. So napakarami. And all with their own specialized functions. Because group of cells, diba? Group of cells or tissues performs a specialized function. And cells are the basic structures of all living organisms and provide structure for the body, take in nutrients from food, and carry out important function. And a cell can be classified either a eukaryotic and a prokaryotic cell. No? About the two. Okay. Okay, so now it is let's talk about the difference between a prokaryotic and a eukaryotic cell. For a while, class up. Okay, so going back about the types of cells, we have your prokaryotic and we have your eukaryotic cells. Okay, we have your prokaryotic and your prokaryotic cells. Regarding this one, I would like us to review regarding the domains of living organisms that we have. No? We have three domains, di ba? According to Carl Roos, okay? According to Carl Roos, no? We have three, we have three, what do you call this? Three domains of living organisms. Number one is that we have your eukarya, which pertains to those of eukaryotic cell organisms. And then we have your bacteria, okay? Your bacteria, which are your example under your prokarya, no? Prokarya or your prokaryotic cells. And then number three, of course, we have your bacteria-like organisms, your archaea. It's just that in terms of biochemical processes and reactions, nag-differ lang si archaea with that of bacteria based on it. And as well as the extreme conditions where archaea could live. No? So yun yung domains, no? Domains of living organisms that we have. And under this, of course, um, eukaryotic organisms includes those of fungi, okay, protozoans, di ba? And then we have your algae, Okay. And then we have your helmets. And then, of course, we have your plants and animals. Well, of course, on the other hand, for bacteria, of course, that belongs to your prokaryotic cells. Okay? So those are the two types of cell, your under examples, no? Your eukaryotic and your prokaryotic cells. So going back here. So when we talk about prokaryotic cells, prokaryotes are unicellular organisms that lacks organelle. No? When we talk about prokaryotic cells, they lack organelles. And um, we're in, therefore, they do not have nucleus, okay? Anucleus, no, anucleus or no nucleus, but instead, they generally have a single chromosome. So what that describes a prokaryotic cell. And when we talk about the term chromosomes, it is a piece of circular double-stranded DNA located in the area of the cell called the nucleoid. Most prokaryotes have a cell wall outside the plasma membrane. Of course, it has a cell wall. And of course, the cell wall, particularly for microorganisms like your bacteria, anong tawag doon sa cell wall niya? Since you have your micro, and I think you have discussed it already in your microbio, what do you call the cell wall of your bacteria? What is it made of? Glass. What does the cell wall of your bacteria, which is a prokaryotic cell, made of? It is made up of students.
Peptidoglycan.
Okay. Okay, it is made up of peptidoglycan cell wall. Okay, we're in the composition. Okay, the composition. Okay, the composition of that of your peptidoglycan. Okay, glycan cell wall is that it comprises of carbohydrates at the same time plus proteins, no? Mainly carbohydrates and proteins. Yun yung composition ng peptidoglycan cell wall. Okay, to continue, going back. So that comprises the prokaryotic cell. No? Meron din siyang chromosomes, but it lacks the nucleus. Okay, to continue. So this is an example of a prokaryotic cell, your bacterial cell. No prokaryotes, which means before nucleus, or it lacks nucleus and thus it does not have structure surrounded by membranes. For internal structure, okay, it has few internal structures compared to that of a eukaryotic cell. And it is a one-celled organism, bacteria, and it's divide and based its reproduction is based on binary fission, no? Binary fission or splitting into two, no? From single, then it splits into two. So that is binary fission. So those are the structure of the prokaryotic cell. Okay, so this is an example of the prokaryotic cell of the microorganisms. Comprises some structures. As you can see here, we have the cytoplasm, no? Cytoplasm, cell wall, cytoplasm, and then we have also yung flagella, no? We have flagella, which is the longer extension of the cell. And then we have the pilus. For pilus has ang pilus have different function, di ba? It could be sex pili, or it could be for attachment or adhesion purposes. Then we have, ano pa ba mong parts? Ribosomes, no? And among others. So isa-isa natin yung mga cellular structures niya. And then we have the eukaryotic cells. So when we talk about eukaryotic cells, these are found in plants, as what I have said, animals, fungi, your protists. No? They are generally surrounded with a nucleus, no? Having a nucleus. They generally have a nucleus, an organelle surrounded by a membrane called the nuclear envelope, wherein, of course, the purpose of your nucleus is to store the genetic material, your DNA. And eukaryotic cells are typically large than prokaryotic cells, ranging from around 10 to 100 micrometer in diameter, while any eukaryotes consist of multiple cells, and there are also single-celled eukaryotes. Okay, so that is your eukaryotic cell. So your eukaryotic cell means, or your eukaryote means true nucleus, so meaning with nucleus, and they are bound to a membrane, no? Bound with a membrane. For prokaryotic, they are not bound, no, to a membrane, no, yung nucleus. And then again, for eukaryotic, it is bound, membrane-bound nucleus containing DNA, and then the membrane comprises of different organelles, which will be discussed later on. And mitosis, in terms of eukaryotic cell, the mode of reproduction is mitosis, no? The common type of cell division. Are we familiar with mitosis? Are you familiar with it already? Mitosis in your human ana? Ano yung
Yes,
ano
sir.
yung general code natin for mitosis? Stages of mitosis? Ano yung palatandaan natin na code? Or mnemonics? Mnemonics natin, it's your P-MAT, di ba? Your prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and your telophase. So those are regarding the stages of mitosis of the cell. Okay, to continue. So this comprises your eukaryotic cell, no? So with that, it comprises membrane-bound organelles, no? Your membrane-bound organelles such as your lysosome, Golgi apparatus, the nucleus, smooth and your rough ER, nucleolus. You have your chromatins, and pa na mga, among other pa na mga, what do you call this? Among other pa na mga organelles, no? Bound to a membrane, cell membrane. So that is your eukaryotic cells. Okay. To generally differentiate the two or compare the two, we have this example table found in the material. No? So most organelles are present in the eukaryotes compared to that of the prokaryotes. No nucleus absent in the prokaryote, mitochondria, okay, no mitochondria. Enzymes for oxidation reaction located in the plasma membrane. Okay. Endoplasmic reticulum, none. Okay. No chloroplast. Okay. See prokaryotes. But take note, there are, due to evolution of organisms, there might be some organisms that are photosynthetic microorganisms. Meron na rin tayong mga photosynthetic microorganisms. But nevertheless, most of them do not have chloroplast. Okay? Most of them do not have chloroplast. Of course. So those are the comparison table of prokaryotic and eukaryotic cell. What's the next? Okay, let's proceed to the next part. Okay. Another difference between a prokaryotic and eukaryotic is that bacterial cell, okay, ito yung mga other na mga components niya, flagellum, plasmid, capsules, no? Ano pa? Differentiating features of that of a prokaryote and eukaryote, we have the size of the cell, the genetic material found, the organelles found, cell wall, presence of cell wall, and the presence of ribosome. So it's the size, it's bigger, of course, for the eukaryotic cell. For genetic material, the DNA is circular ang formation, linear for a eukaryote. And then for organelles, many organelles are found in the um, eukaryotic cells organism. And for cell wall, okay, rigid, formed from glycoproteins, especially for prokaryote glycoproteins, while for eukaryotic, rigid then but is formed by other composition. Like for fungi, we have your chitin or chitin, di ba? Are we familiar with this one? Chitin or chitin as a polysaccharide component of that of your fungi. For plants naman, of course, cellulose, no? Cellulose in plants. And animals naman do not have cell wall. No, your animals do not have cell wall, which differs it from plant cell, no? Which differs it from plant cell. And in terms of ribosome, no, your ribosomes, we have 70s and 80s. It's Vidberg. The unit is, okay, the unit is ribosomal unit. Speedberg is, anong tawag din? Ribosomal with, sorry. Ribosomal Speedberg. And ang tawag natin sa ribosomal unit is Speedberg, which is a unit of sedimentation. No? Unit of sedimentation of proteins. Na-measure yung unit ng proteins natin based on in unit of sedimentation, no? And the unit is Wilberg. Base sa naka-discover, no? Base sa naka-discover nito, no? So, yun na nga, going back to the table, based on the production of based on the ribosomal unit, no? As it produces proteins, no? It is classified as to ribosomal unit of 70 Speedberg, no? Ribosomal unit of proteins for that of a prokaryote and 80 Speedberg for eukaryotic cells. Do you follow, guys? Do you still follow?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
70s and 80s. Okay, 70s and 80s. And then also, yan is yung main. Yan yung main na ribosomal unit. Actually, meron pa siyang, okay, sorry. Meron pa siyang ribosomal subunits, no? Aside from the ribosomal unit, meron siyang subunits, no? For prokaryotic, eukaryotic, diba? 70s, and then we have 80s, no? Not small s. 70s, 80s. So, subunit niya, 50s and 80s. And then ito, 60s and 40s. Remember that your ribosomes, okay? Remember that your ribosomes produces smaller and bigger units of protein. Okay? It produces small units and bigger units of proteins. Kaya meron siyang subunit as 50s and 80s, 60s and 40s. And do not ask kung bakit ganyan yung kanyang subunits kasi yun na po yung pinangalan sa subunit na yan sa naka-discover. Regardless if the main ribosomal unit is 70s and 80s for the eukaryotic. Hindi naman pwedeng i-add natin itong dalawa tapos ito. Hindi naman po. No? I'm sorry. I would like to correct this one. It's not 80. It's 30s. It's 30s subunit, no? 50s subunit and 30s for your 70 ribosomal unit, and then 60s or 60 subunits and 40 subunits of protein produced under your 80 80 Swedberg 80 Swedberg unit of 80 Swedberg ribosomal unit of your eukaryotic cell. Do you follow, guys? Do you follow regarding
Yes
the
po, sir.
ribosomal unit? So always remember that one, no? Always remember. Okay, so let's continue. Okay, so now let's talk about your organelles. No? Let's talk about your organs. I hope you can finish the whole topic one because I think you will be having your oral recitation in your laboratory later, right? Oral quiz ba yan or oral recitation? Anyways, prepare for a quiz on Saturday. No, prepare for a quiz on Saturday for topic 1. No, hindi pa tayo nag-quiz. All our activities, lahat ng yun. Anyways, okay. So the first one, the first part or organelles that we have is your plasma membrane. Your plasma membrane surrounds the outside of both your prokaryotic and prokaryotic cells. It is it is a bilipid layer, di ba? Yun yung it's the uh, phospholipid bilayer. Yeah, double layer of phospholipid and controls the movement of various substances into and out of the cell, which conducts what kind of transport? We have your passive and active transport, and it allows cell identification. No? Allows cell identification of biomolecules to pass through in and out of the cell. Okay. Again, under this, we're in under plasma membrane, no? Talking about plasma membrane. Your plasma membrane is a lipid bilayer or phospholipid bilayer. I sorry. That's wrong spell mo siya. Okay. Phospholipid bilayer, no? And your plasma membrane is a what we so called a selectively permeable membrane. So, ibig sabihin ng selectively permeable membrane is that it does not allow all substance to pass through inside, to pass through in and outside of the cell, but rather they become selective as to which component or as to which biomolecules or substance could pass through. Kaya tawag natin sa kanya is semi-permeable. Because it is just like having this thin line, no? When we talk about um when we talk about permeable, then therefore lahat pwedeng makapass through. Impermeable, if impermeable, okay? If impermeable, then therefore it cannot pass through. Then kung semi-permeable, then therefore there might be parts na pwedeng magpasok, there might be parts na pwedeng hindi. Okay? So kaya selectively permeable, no? So it depends. So again, our plasma membrane is a selectively permeable membrane. Again, mostly ang transport mechanism niya is active transport, okay? Active transport wherein there is a need for ATP or energy, di ba? And then we have your passive transport. Passive transport, anong example ng passive transport natin, people? Anong example ng passive transport based on your other discussions, bio subjects? We have your start with letter D. Ano example ng passive?
Diffusion.
Diffusion, sir.
Okay, very good. No, diffusion of substance from higher to, sorry, higher to okay, diffusion of substance from higher to lower concentration against concentration gradient. And then we have, of course, kung water naman, kung water, we have osmosis, di ba? We have osmosis for water, movement of water. So that is for diffusion, no? Your passive, under passive transport. Then we have active as well. So those are types of transport. Meron bang isa? Meron din tayong tinatawag na
Facilitated
facilitated.
diffusion, sir.
Mali na pong spelling, guys. Facilitated diffusion. Yes. Facilitated. No? Diffusion. So yun yung mga types of passive transport natin, or yes, types of passive transport. And then we have your active transport. Then meron din tayo yung tawag natin dito, under transport mechanism, meron pang dalawa. Yung endocytosis, exocytosis, no? Na transport mechanism. So that is for cell membrane, no? When we discuss about cell membrane. Again, going back here, our plasma membrane is a double membrane, no? If we draw it, several units of that one, no? If i-draw na to siya, actually moving na siya in what area, and then area here, no? Kadaghan na siya na units. As we all know that this is your phosphate. No, your phosphate is hydrophilic. Hydrophilic. Pag sinabing hydrophilic, water-loving. Itong tail na to, itong dalawang tail na to is your lipophilic. No? Lipophilic tail. This is your hydrophilic head. Pag lipophilic, of course, it pertains to lipid components niya. Kaya tawag sa kanya phospholipid, no? Phospholipid bilayer. Kasi nga, dalawang layer siya. First layer, then second layer. No? Do you get me, people? Nakuha
Yes,
ba
sir.
agad?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Sige,
Sir.
let's continue. Sige. And then we have your nucleus, of course. That's the one that kung saan na-store yung ating genetic material, which is the DNA. And it is also responsible for the control of cell activities, including the growth, metabolism, and reproduction. Okay. To continue. Then we have your nucleolus. No? Tama ba? Okay, nucleolus. No? It involves in the production and assembling of subunits, which results in the formation of ribosomes. So ribosomes can be found in the nucleolus at the same time. Ribosomes can also be found in the rough ER, in the endoplasmic reticulum, no? So aside from the endoplasmic reticulum, ribosomes can also be found in the nucleolus. So the ribosomes are of course, as we all know, ribosome is the site for protein synthesis, and this is one of the reasons why the nucleolus plays an indirect but crucial role in protein synthesis. The nucleolus carries out 50% of the total production of RNA that takes place in the cell. Okay, wherein RNA is very necessary, or ribonucleic acid is very necessary for the production of your proteins. For the production of protein templates the sequence of that of amino acids necessary to produce proteins. Okay? So yeah, that is your nucleolus. Next to nucleolus, we have your mitochondria. Of course, dali, kung tanungin kayo, di ba? Ang bilis talaga. Even, siguro kung magtanong ako ngayon, mabilis kayo makasagot. Anong function ni mitochondria? The powerhouse of the cell. No? It's the powerhouse of the cell wherein it involves the production of your energy in the form of ATP or your adenosine triphosphate. And the cell uses this energy to perform the specific work necessary for the survival and function of the cell. So that is your mitochondria. And take note, your mitochondria has both inner and outer membrane. And of course, one of its iyang special formation niya of your mitochondria is the curve. Yung curve, gani, yung parang coiled siya inside. And that is your crista or your cristae. And the purpose of that one, and the purpose of having your cristae is for more energy storage ba? Or more glucose storage and energy storage. Kaya medyo coiled siya. Curve, yung curve niya, parang sausage, di ba? No? Yung ganun. So with that, again, the purpose is for more storage for energy. No? Yun yung purpose kung bakit ganyan ang form ng cresta natin or cristae. Okay. So that is your mitochondria. And then we have the next one. Next organelle is the RAF-ER. Bakit siya RAF? Kasi nandun yung ribosome. Maraming ribosomes present in your RAF-ER. So it's a membranous structure that associates closely with nucleus. So under organelles, if you try to look into mga questions online or questions in exams and so on, one good question that can be incorporated in general for organelles is that, are these organelles membranous or not? Does it contain an inner membrane or an outer membrane or not? No, so please make sure to check if what are those membranous organelles and what are those non-membranous organelles. Do you get me, people? Assignment yan. Please do check or recall. Again, membranous organelles and those non-membranous organelles, because that could be a possible questions in exams. Naintindihan, guys? Do you follow?
Sir,
So,
can you repeat?
again, assignments in you is to determine what are the list of organelles that are under membranous organelles and those non-membranous organelles. So we have already identified membranous. We have your mitochondria. We have described it as a membranous organelle. Then we have your RAF endoplasmic reticulum, another one which is a membranous organelle. No? So studied with ribosomes, giving its RAF appearance. Kaya RAF kasi mas maraming ribosomes attached to the endoplasmic reticulum. RNA passes through the ribosomes where its sequence of nucleic acid codes for specific amino acids to be joined up in a specific order. Wherein yung RNA that passes that ribosomes in the RAP-ER is coming from that of the RNA produced in the nucleolus, the part. Yeah. Via messenger RNA. And then the route through the ribosomes of the amino acid takes them into the membrane of the reticulum where they can be kept together. So they are then moved into vesicle in the Golgi apparatus, di ba? The packaging. Siya na yung nagpapack, no? Siya yung nagpapack ng proteins natin, no? Si Golgi apparatus. So the RAP-ER is involved in protein synthesis. The question now, how about your smooth ER? Saan ba siya involved? If your rough ER is involved in protein synthesis, then how about your smooth ER? Where are they involved? Students, smooth ER. If your rough ER is involved in protein synthesis, saan ba involved ang ating smooth ER? Any answers?
Lipid, sir.
Okay,
Lipid
lipid
synthesis.
synthesis. Okay, very good. Lipid synthesis or fat synthesis, no? So it functions in several metabolic processes, including synthesis of lipids, metabolism of some carbohydrates, control of calcium concentration, and detoxification of drugs, and attachment of receptors of cell membrane proteins, and it is connected to the nuclear envelope, no? Connected towards the nuclear envelope. So that is the role of your endoplasmic reticulum. Okay, then this is now the short differentiation between a smooth and a rough reticulum. So absence of ribosomes in smooth ER. Ribosomes are present in rough ER. Okay, present near the membrane, that is for your smooth ER. Present near the nucleus kasi nandun galing yung ribosomes, other ribosomes, di ba, that produces RNA transported towards another ribosome in the RER. So present near the nucleus, formed of tubules, and then for RER, formed in cisternae, okay, lipid forming, protein forming, and these are the products, some of the products, no, or structural components niya in the body, no? So function, or shall we say, specialized cell, no, specialized cells containing smooth ER and rough ER. Itong acinar cells, goblet cells, plasma cells, Nile granules, and endocrine cells. No? Then of course adipocytes. So again, these are specialized cells which contains smooth endoplasmic reticulum and rough ER. So those are the difference between the two. Then we have the chloroplast. Okay, so under chloroplast, so these are membrane bound. So again, membranous na naman siya, no? Membrane bound plastids containing chlorophyll. Of course, we have the thylakoid layer. Thylakoid layer wherein nandoon yung chlorophyll inside. Then grana, and their own set of DNA molecules dispersed in the stroma. So each component of the chloroplast has a unique role in photosynthesis, of course, and photorespiration, or shall we say exchange of gases in plants. Huh? Chloroplast. Okay, let's continue. So usually itong chloroplast natin, it performs photosynthesis in photoautotropic eukaryotes natin. Then we have your Golgi apparatus or your Golgi apparatus, right? Or shall we say this is your Golgi bodies, no? It is modify, sort, and that unpackage proteins, no? It package proteins and other materials from the cellular endoplasmic reticulum for storage within the cell, and more often for the secretion of these proteinaceous biosubstances to the exterior of the cell. No? So mainly it packs protein. No? Wherein your Golgi apparatus at that role is for the attachment of your proteins, of course. Ano ba yung chemical formula? Ano ba yung chemical formula? General formula for protein. Of course, it has carbon, no? Let's talk about protein content. For proteins, no? It has carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. That is carbohydrate to pag-cho lang. Pero if there is presence of nitrogen, then therefore, that is, okay, Chon and chon products are proteins, no? So attachment of this chon or of this protein to protein products, that is the role of your Golgi apparatus. Okay, wherein um after packing, proteins are stored in different parts of the cell or in the different parts of the body. So that is your proteins, no? In connection to that of your Golgi apparatus. Okay. Then we have your lysosomes, no? So these are specialized membrane bound that contains enzymes or for molecular digestion. Owing to these enzymes, they play a major role in recycling of molecules, disposal of cellular debris, cell membrane repair, phagocytosis, as well as programmed cell death. So that is the purpose of your lysozyme. We're in, again, under this, no, your lysozyme, okay? Your lysozyme, um, these are tinatawag nating suicide sacs, di ba? This is what we call as your suicide sacs. Wherein the purpose of this one is to kill, no? Kill foreign organisms in the body. So your lysozyme, our lysozyme in the cell is a form of defense mechanism against foreign organisms such as bacteria and other microorganisms that might invade cell, no? Wherein, again, as based on description, it contains digestive enzymes. It contains digestive enzymes, or shall we say, hydrolytic enzymes that could kill those foreign, um, those foreign um, organisms. Okay, and with that, they are usually present in animal cells. Mostly present in animal cells. And one good example of um okay, so yun. So that is for lysozyme, no? That is for lysozyme. Okay, continue muna tayo. Okay. Next is peroxisome. So here we are na continuation. So these are small membrane-bounded cytoplasmic organelles found in both plants and animals. So again, when we compare lysosomes and peroxisomes, si lysosomes only found in animals. Si peroxisomes, both animals and plant. Do you get me? Do you follow, guys? Do you
Yes po.
follow? Okay. So it contains, okay, the component, no, or the component of your peroxisomes, uh which allows deterioration, or shall we say destruction of microorganisms, is peroxide, or shall we say, yes, that is your peroxide ion. The peroxide ion, wherein it destroys enzymes like catalases, no? If we relate it in your microbiology, if we relate it in our microbiology, there are some microorganisms or bacteria that are catalase positive. So catalase positive microorganisms are somehow um, hindi siya basta-bastang hindi siya basta-bastang allows them to survive more ba? Hindi sila basta-basta um, mamatay, no? Mamatay in terms of kung may ibigay tayo na antimicrobial agent, or shall we say disinfectant, no, sa mga wounds, for example. Remember that, di ba? Um, remember that, di ba, di ba, for example, if magamit tayo ng agua oxinada, di ba? Remember that when we used agua oxinada, di ba?
Yes.
Pag nilagay natin siya sa mga sugat na medyo may pus, no? Pus containing, di ba? Anong nangyayari? There will be bubbles, no? There will be production of oxygen gas or gas. At the same time, another product of that one is water. Because with that, your peroxide, your hydrogen peroxide, ang target niya is yung microorganism which has usually microorganisms that has catalase positive. And that is equal, that is a test. That is a test to check if that microorganism is a catalase positive or a catalase negative. In the sense na pag mag-bubble siya, then therefore it's a catalase positive microorganism. Do you get me? Have you gone into that na? Have you gone into that topic na in your micro regarding catalase positive?
Wala pa, sir.
Or shall we say, wala pa mo nag-discuss under banda katong sa what you call this, sa nutrient requirement niya, under that madiscuss doon to ang mga toxic type of oxygens. And then one of the toxic oxygen that microorganism has is the peroxide and ion. It's the peroxide and ion wherein yun na nga, no? Yun na nga. It will kill, kaya nga yung ating hydrogen peroxide could really kill microorganisms, no? Especially catalase positive microorganisms. So yun siya. So, kasi yung ating catalase, okay, yung ating catalases, no, prevents the peroxide from acting on the cellular content. So, with that, the peroxide acting on the cell may lead to cell damage, no? So, muna, di po pwede, no, na masubraan po tayo gamit o peroxide, hydrogen peroxide, because it could also be cause cell damage, no? Kaya nga yung ating hydrogen peroxide is just in a very low concentration, di ba? If you try to buy hydrogen peroxide in the market or in the pharmacy, lesser concentration lang siya. Meron siyang volume per volume unit, no? I think it's 10 if I'm not mistaken, it's 10% hydrogen peroxide only. Dili pwede itong concentrated. Kaya kung itong concentrated, it could really cause damage. It can cause damage, no? So yan. That is the purpose of peroxide, hydrogen peroxide. So in terms of peroxisomes, it contains peroxide, which allows which allows to destroy microorganisms containing catalase enzyme, no? Catalase enzyme. Meaning nito is that under this additional for peroxisome is that peroxisome. Okay. Kayo nang ng spelling ha. Peroxisome is that it uses peroxide, which is a molecular oxygen siya. Oxygen to detoxify, detoxification purposes. For detoxification, no? For detoxification purposes, particularly of harmful mga substances harmful substances that might enter the cell. Okay? So yan yung purpose ni peroxisome. Do you get me? Nakuha ba guys? Okay, sige. Let's continue. Then we have cytoskeleton. So si cytoskeleton is provides the basic framework of the cell, no? It is responsible for the cell shape even the movement, no? Even the movement of the cell as a whole and motility of organelles within a cell, because cytoskeleton is a component as well of that of your flagella. Your flagella, your villi, no? It includes cytoskeleton, no? Meron siyang composition ni cytoskeleton. So with that, kasi under cytoskeleton, no, okay, wala siyang discuss. Anyway, under cytoskeleton, I'm talking about cytoskeleton. Si cytoskeleton na to comprises the what we so called your microfilament, no? Your microfilaments, okay? We have also intermediate filaments. Remembering your ang tawag dito? Remembering your human anatomy regarding the cardiac muscle cell, or no, not the cardiac muscle, but the skeletal muscle cells, no? Skeletal muscle tissues, wherein, di ba, in order for it to contract, it needs your actin and myosin, di ba? In order for it to contract. So in relation to that one, it contains cytoskeleton filament, no, myofilament. So with that, cytoskeleton comprises with the microfilament, intermediate filament, and microtubules comprises cytoskeleton. Again, ang purpose niya is for support and movement of the cell. Movement of the cell. So that is your cytoskeleton. Then we have your cell wall, of course, no? Your cell wall. So maintaining and ultimately determines the shape of the plant cell, for support and mechanical strength, function. Okay, prevent the cell membrane from bursting in a hypotonic medium such as resistant water pressure, and controls the rate and direction of cell growth and regulates cell volume. Okay. So punta tayo dito. So punta tayo dito sa third part. Prevents the cell membrane from bursting in a hypotonic medium. Bakit pala? Anong nangyayari? How does the cell wall prevents us, no? Kasi our cell could be exposed, no? Our cell or the cell can be exposed to 3 types of environment, no? It can be that we can be exposed to this what we call as hypertonic solutions, or hypertonic environment, ma-expose ang cell natin. And then we have also hypotonic, and yes, hypotonic, and we have also isotonic. So my question here now, which among the three environment is healthy for the cell? Saan ba dyan ang
Connect po.
okay?
Isotonic, sir.
Okay, very good. No, isotonic, because movement of substance, particularly when it comes to movement of water in and outside of the cell, no? Pertaining to osmosis, di ba? Pertaining to osmosis, no? Movement of water, or if it's not water, if it is then the movement of substances in the body. So pag sinabing isotonic, kasi there will be equal movement of water in and outside of the cell. Okay, in and outside of the cells. Well, when we talk about hypertonic, as what have mentioned in the slide, it causes bursting bursting of the cell natin, if ever, pag ma-expose ta sa hypertonic solution. Isotonic solution or isotonic environment is 0.9%, di ba? Particularly, for example, in your application to medical practice, 0.9%, di ba? Plain NSS, sodium chloride, is an isotonic solution. More than that or lower than that, then that is hypertonic and hypotonic. Okay, hypertonic, so more than 0.9%. So it causes bursting. Like given that this is the cell, this is the environment. So if it is hypertonic, then therefore, okay, increase concentration of solute such as salt or your sodium chloride, and then decrease, okay, and then we have decreased hypertonic, okay, and decrease, it's not burst, wait lang ha, okay, increase solute, decrease water, while on the other hand, increase ang water, increase in water concentration inside the cell, lower ang solute. No? So therefore, what will happen, diba? There will be, for example, movement of water from higher concentration, no? From higher concentration to a lower concentration. So water will move outside. So it's not hypertonic, sorry. I would like to correct this one. So pag ma-expose ang ato ang cell to a hypertonic environment, it will shrink, no? It will shrink the cell, no? And then aside from shrink, it mag-damage siya. So makat siya ang cell. Then therefore, water will move outside. Kasi lower ang water concentration outside if you have a hypertonic solution. So the cell will try to shrink. Do you get it, people? Mag-shrink siya.
Yes, sir.
And then, di ba, kung hypotonic naman, if this is the cell and this is the environment, therefore, pag hypotonic, therefore, lower concentration of solute such as salt, high concentration of water outside the cell, low concentration of water inside the cell, then therefore, water from outside environment will move inside, causing it to burst, no? Causing it to burst, mag-expand, no? Mag-store siya water inside the cell. So we don't want that to happen. In case of mga intravenous na mga solutions and others, as much as possible, we want it to be 0.9% sodium chloride. I told you, 0.9% or shall we say, isotonic siya in nature, in order not to hurt the cell that we have, like for example, the RBC, no? Hindi magkaroon ng problem on this one sa RBC natin, no? And even the nearby cells. But at some point as well, there are cases wherein hypertonic and hypotonic solutions can be helpful, no? And that would be my assignment for you, and I will be asking some of you on Saturday as to what is the purpose of having hypertonic and hypotonic solutions, in what case in the medical field wherein hypertonic and hypotonic solutions can be used. Do you get me? Nakuha ba guys ang question?
Yes.
Hypertonic and hypotonic products, the mga solutions, how can it help in the treatment, no? Though we have our ideal isotonic, pero in what cases does hypertonic and hypotonic can be applied in treatments? So that is my question that I will leave to you guys to be answered next meeting. Okay, time check, it's 2:40. No? Time check, it's 2:40. Malapit na ang 3. No? Mag-oral recitation pa kayo. Okay. I think palapit na tayo sa... Yes, I think we're done. The last one is your vacuole. Of course, your vacuole, wala siya sa animals. No? Si vacuoles, wala siya sa animals. It is more on the plant cell, di ba? Kasi si vacuole is the source of food, water, and waste. It maintains turgor pressure against the cell wall. Example of this one, flowers, our flowers, 'di ba? Pag ang flower katong dili pa gani siya nag-bloom, 'di ba? Try to check ang namalit mo rose na dili pa kayo bloom para dili siya dali malahos, 'di ba? Then afterward you sprinkled it with water in the afternoon or in the later part of the time, it will bloom. 'Di ba? Do you get me? Magets ninyo? 'Di ba mag-open ang petals niya?
Yes, sir.
And that
Yes,
is
sir.
because one of that one is the water or the moisture that moves inside, no, that moves inside the cell, particularly towards the vacuole, nagsistore yung water, kaya siya nag-o-open. Okay? So that is for vacuoles. And I think that's the last part under because the last part is a summary naman of the functions of the organelles. So I think that's the last part of the discussion kasi parang naulit lang guys, no? When you check this one, parang naulit lang yung slide, ano? Nagtaka rin ako. Kasi when I check this one, medyo ang dami naman, pero I think similar lang yung text. 'Di ba guys? Tama ba ako guys?
Yes po, sir.
Yes po,
So,
sir.
naulit lang. And I hope you have answered the practice questions on it that was given as part of your class participation. Okay, so are there any questions with regards to our discussion this afternoon regarding the cell, regarding biochemistry? Meron ba tayong questions?
Sa mga assignments po, bale, overall there are 4 questions. The membranous and the non-membranous organelles, and
Yes.
the last 2 medical application of solution, which are the hypotonic and hypertonic.
Yes. Paano na siya? Meron ka ng reading assignment lang ninyo because I will be asking somebody from the class next meeting on Saturday regarding it. Okay?
So we're not to write
Hindi
it,
siya,
sir.
no. You will not write it or submit it.
Okay.
Just have a reading and maybe somebody will be called for it to answer.
Okay.
Okay?
Sir, may question lang po ako. Kailan po tayo mag-exam po?
Kuan pa, next week pa. Karon na ba yung exam? When will be your exam week? This week?
This week po.
Next week pa ako magpa-exam sa inyo. Siguro probably Monday. Probably Monday. Or if not Monday, on the Saturday next week. Basta not this week. Okay? Because I want to tackle all our discussions pa. Okay? Okay ba guys?
Yes, sir.
Sir.
Sige. Okay, other questions, concerns? So sa Saturday, we'll meet for a discussion na synchronous tayo on Saturday.
Okay po, sir.
Okay. Sige. Ano ba may mga questions pa? Time check is 2:44.
Ano po, sir?
Wala na. So with that, I hope you have listened in our discussion and study for the quiz. Study for the quiz on Saturday. And baka rin makapag-send ako ng advance ng video discussion regarding cell membrane. Kasi ang continuation nito is the cell membrane, not regarding water. So with that, I will be including cell membrane doon sa quiz natin. if given na makapag-send ako ng video discussion under cell membrane. Okay, so with that, kindly have review in both topic 1, which is your introduction to biochemistry and cells, and then disregard first yung water na topic, proceed to cell membrane. Kasi I want it to be continued with cell membrane kasi magkarugtong lang sila under cellular structures. Okay ba yon? You get it, people?
Yes po, sir.
Okay. So with that, since we're done with our discussion, okay, so before we'll end with our class, let's have first a closing prayer. May I request, sino yung nag-ask kanina? Kasi I think you have okay ang internet connection mo regarding sa assignment. Sino yon?
Sir?
Pwede gani ni mo?
Opo. Jamil Akob.
Akob. Akob? Tama ba?
Yes po.
Okay. So kindly lead the prayer. Okay, kindly lead the prayer, closing prayer. And then after that, yes, closing prayer. And then after that, access the link, attendance link given kanina sa time in, and then kindly have your log out. And then pwede na kayong mag-exit sa ating Zoom after that. Okay, so let's have first our closing prayer.
Okay po. Muslim prayer po. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. Okay na po.
Okay, so with that, don't forget to have your attendance log out. Okay, don't forget to have your attendance log out via the chat box, yung link natin kanina. I just want to recopy paste it kasi baka merong hindi kanina, no? So kinopy paste ko lang ulit, and then kindly have your log out, and then pwede na kayong mag-exit. So goodbye and thank you, class.
Bye, sir.
God bless
Thank you,
everyone.
sir.
Bye sir. Thank you po.
Sir.